It's drilled to left field. Is it high enough? See ya! A walk-off grand slam, and the Yankees win.
And he drives one to right field over toward the line. Long run for Laureano, and he home runs it, and the Mets win the ball game.
Episode 51 of The Burrows, talking Mets, talking Yankees today. Kevin Buck, Michael Merlo coming to you every week for BTO Media, Mike, good week for both teams. Great week for the Yankees. I still think good week for the Mets. 5-5 over their last 10, though. We'll break all that down second half of the show. First week that we're really sitting here saying Yankees are the greatest team ever assembled, and we'll talk through that first half of the show. But how you doing today? State of baseball, your emotional state, how's everything?
Feeling good. Emotional state is relaxed, I would say, at the moment. You know, listen, it's still early, even though we're past Memorial Day. I also, later in the show, I do want to ask you a World Series prediction as we pass Memorial Day here. So I think this is a good spot to get another one in, unless you're staying with the one that you had. I'm certainly not staying with the World Series prediction I had from the beginning of the year, so we'll see where you are. But I'm good.
It's going to be tough to put the Rangers back in.
Yeah, and for me, the Red Sox. No, yeah. I don't think that's going to happen.
The NL team, though, maybe. We'll see. So, Yankees have won 7 straight series. We might get a little shout for them at the end of the show in the World Series predictions.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yankees, though, have won their 7th series in a row. They sweep the Angels. And I look at this part of the schedule, this entire month of May, really, it was a tale of two halves of the schedule. And it was first 5 series of the month were very difficult. It was Tampa Bay, and they actually lost that series, but Tampa Bay was their first kind of tough division series of the year. So, I mean, they'd played Toronto already, but so I looked at that as difficult, even though Tampa's not a great team. They're one game over or under 500 right now. But then you played the Padres for 3. Yankees win that series. The A's on the road for 3. Didn't know what to expect there at that point, but Yankees win that series fairly easily. 2 blowout wins. Mariners, again, on the road. That was a great series win. Then the Mets. And then after that part of the schedule, those are 3 really good teams. And then the A's, who are competitive on the, on the road, I thought, at least at the time. And now you look at this second half, Texas, Rockies, Angels, you got to win all of those series. And they sweep the Rangers, they sweep the Angels. Ironically, the only team that gets a game on them is Colorado, who has 9 wins this year. And now you go into June with the Dodgers series that starts tomorrow in LA. I don't know if you could feel any better about the Yankees right now at this point in the season.
Yeah, I was thinking about that last night. I don't think you have felt better. I think since last season heading into the World Series, I don't think a Yankee fan has felt as good about the New York Yankees as they do right now. And I don't think that you can feel any differently. You know, this isn't a whole team at the moment. There are still some key guys banged up, and they are playing some of their best baseball of this season. And it's been fun. It's been entertaining to watch for sure. From the other side, they are dominating right now, and it starts with the starting pitching. It starts with Fried, Rodon, and Clark Schmidt settling in, and Will Warren developing and turning into a middle of the rotation guy right in front of our eyes, and possibly something more. So for me right now, we know they have guys offensively that have stepped up, but it is about this starting pitching completely dominating this month when we thought this was going to be an issue early on, because it looked like it was going to be.
We've had a few discussions about, well, first, actually, while we're talking about starting pitching, I don't want to forget this point. Pretty soon, Marcus Stroman is going to be healthy, I'd imagine. And I don't know if they DFA him. I don't know if he stays on the IL for the whole season. It's just one of those things where he could have pitched, but there was no spot, and he collects the check while he sits with the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were to put Stroman back into a rotation and bump out any of the guys going, but probably Yarborough, that would be complete malpractice by the Yankees. They cannot do that.
No, 100%. I mean, I can't believe how good Yarborough's been. I mean, this is like
stud.
I mean, you could say, all right, Warren, he had some sort of a track record, great stuff. A lot of the advanced numbers told you he was unlucky to start this season. Clark Schmidt was settling in from an injury. He was banged up last year as well. Like, Yarborough, how random is this?
This is crazy. I remember when the Yankees got Yarborough, he had offers from other teams that were better offers. And he was looking to have a little renaissance, which he's absolutely having right now. And they asked him, I don't know who the other teams were. It was never a thing that came out. Nobody cares who the other teams in the Yarborough sweepstakes were. It's not a very public free agency bidding war. But the sentiment that he gave when he got to the Yankees and met with the media for the first time was their pitching development is so great that I really wanted to be here and see what they could do with me. I think that this was worth the risk of coming here for a worse contract for almost a non-guaranteed roster spot in spring training. And I wanted to come in and see what they could do for me. And how about the 180 that I have to do on the Matt Blake overrated celebrity pitching coach thing from a month ago? My God. His pitching staff's been ridiculous. And Rodon, we'll talk about him a lot today. I think Carlos Rodon has been sensational.
Well, clearly Yarborough was not offered a contract by the Mets, but either way,
he was. They offered him $10 million a year. He took one to play with the Yankees.
JM has asked me a lot. He's like, you got to do an apology to Carlos Rodon, and I feel like I've been nice to Rodon over the past couple of weeks here as he's really turned it on. But I could give an apology, I guess, to Carlos Rodon. I'm not afraid of that.
I'm not either. And we've been good to him this year. It was last year where we had to call him out where it was due. I mean,
but it was deserved. I mean, it was much deserved. He in every big spot last season, he came up small.
All Carlos Rodon needed was a beard.
I guess so.
They reinstate the beard policy or they get rid of the beard policy. And Rodon, I'm going to pull up his stats now, with and without the beard. For his entire career, he pitches with a beard before the Yankees.
Yeah.
The years without a beard, you see Cy Young finishes where his ERA is a 2.3 in Chicago, a 2.8 in San Francisco. He's got to shave the beard. Comes to the Yankees, 6.8 ERA in 2023, 4 ERA in 2024. Now you can grow the beard, 2.6 ERA.
Yeah, it's incredible. I gotta say something. It may sound disrespectful. His wife is something else on Twitter.
Yeah, it's just one of those situations where
you can't control her.
You just can't control her, and you need, you just would prefer she didn't say anything.
It's not bad.
Really well.
It's not bad right now though, because he is pitching well, and there's not much that she could say to piss people off. But I would read tweets last year, the year prior, and he would have a nice outing, and then she would just tweet out, "Are you gonna boo him now? Yeah, what are you gonna say about this outing now?" I'm like, why ruin it?
What bothers me with that? Yeah, what bothers me with that is, I'm sure. Obviously, we don't know her, we don't know him. I'm sure, nice lady, sure they have a great relationship. Whatever. This is not an easy place to be liked.
No.
So when you're already seeing your husband get shot down, what does going to Twitter do for his reputation and his likeness in New York that can't be fixed with his pitching? He has to fix it with his pitching. That's it. And when you become unlikable as the spouse, then it just adds more fuel to the hate for your husband. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, it wasn't good. I think it did hurt. I think it absolutely hurt him early. But I think a lot of people at least have forgotten about her and whatnot. I heard Kay talking about her the other night on the broadcast.
Yeah, what do you say? I didn't hear it.
Just that, she's just, talking her up. Nothing crazy. Nothing bringing her down.
Yeah, that's good. I'm happy that he's dealing, because you could tell sometimes athlete really, he got the contract, and sometimes the guy gets a contract and he's not as good after, and you can kind of tell they're not trying. They're not working as hard in the offseason. This is obviously that's rare, but it happens.
Yeah.
And
Soto,
but Rodon, that was not the case. He was pissed that he sucked.
Yeah.
He was really, and it made him worse that he went from bad to worse because mentally he could not handle being that bad with the Yankees. And now stud.
I don't think I trust him in a postseason game though. I don't know how. I know that doesn't make sense, and I know that's not fair, but I still wouldn't trust him in a big game.
No, that's fair. It's fair because he's got to do it now in the postseason, and he has to do it through this entire season. You think back to this time last year, he had about a 3 ERA through the first 2 months, and he ended up having a bad rest of the year. So it's something you got to look at months from now and reflect on. But right now in the moment, it feels great. It feels like they finally have gotten the guy they paid for.
Yeah, just 3 years later. It's fine.
It's all right. We still got a couple more years left on that deal, so. Was he in our bad contracts? He was.
Did you draft him?
I think I did, yeah.
I didn't draft him.
I think my last 2 picks were Rodon and Stanton.
Right. I know you definitely picked Stanton.
Yeah. And nobody picked Story.
I know. But Story is still a lower total value than those 2 guys.
And I think our reasoning for it at the time was there's much more flexibility with what you can do with Story. The Red Sox are going to do a point within the next year where he doesn't have to play. Yankees are never going to get to a point where Rodon doesn't have to pitch.
Yeah.
Let's look at last year's team versus this year's team. We've had a lot of discussions the last few weeks, really since that Mets series, that post-Subway Series episode we did last week was the discussion about it, but I sent you this lineup from the postseason.
Yep.
Are the 2025 Yankees better than the 2024 Yankees? And you look at this lineup from last year's playoffs, Gleyber, Torres, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Stanton, Chisholm, Rizzo, Volpe, Wells, Verdugo, and Cole on the mound. That is their best lineup. That is game 1 of the World Series. And that's a healthy lineup.
Yep.
Is this group better? I think if you go pound for pound, it's an interesting conversation.
Yes, I do. I think they're slightly better. They're slightly better. Obviously, like Soto is one of and especially last season, he was one of the 3 best hitters in the sport. So to have the first and the third best hitters in the sport in the same lineup, you really can't beat that. Gleyber at the time was, hot in the postseason, a good offensive player. We know what Stanton is in the postseason as well. We're going based on at that time, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, I would say those 4 guys right there alone take the cake over the guys in this lineup, I think, from 2 to 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would even include Torres because at least you had a guy you knew hit leadoff. The Yankees, even though they're getting production out of the lineup spot, I don't like that there's a new guy out of the 4 guys that have been rotating every night. I wish that they had a guy that they know is hitting there on a daily basis. But I think if you go lineup, the second half of the lineup through, it's much better because Rizzo, Volpe, Wells, Verdugo, even Chisholm at the time in the playoffs was a very easy out. He did not have a good postseason.
Yeah.
So you look through the guys after those 4, that's the difference with this year's team. But once again, you flash back to a year ago, we thought Volpe had arrived at this point. Volpe looks good right now. Can he carry it through the entire season? That's a whole other question. In the postseason, he was pretty good also. He had a couple base knocks in the Grand Slam in the World Series, but still wasn't great. He was good, kind of like what he is right now for the Yankees. So, time will tell, but I think that Cashman did a good job. This is not they're better off without Soto thing. I just think we're starting to see that he did do a very good job with the replacements because we also don't know what the reality is if they sign Soto. Do they still pursue Fried? Do they still, they still get Devin Williams, I'd imagine. They still get Paul Goldschmidt, I'd imagine. So we're still looking at a very different team from last year. But I don't know if they're better off. That's not the conversation, really. But I do agree with you. I think that they are better in the lineup. And in the pitching staff, they're better because Fried's better than Cole. Rodon's better than Rodon was. They don't have Heel in the 3, but Will Warren's been really good. Yarborough's been better than Stroman. So that they're better in there. And then it's Schmidt and Schmidt, who is kind of just a wash right now.
Same.
They're better than they were pitching-wise last year.
Yes, that 100%. I think their lineup, I would go last season's lineup. The starting rotation, this right now is I think some of the best starting pitching they've gotten in a very long time. I mean, in this month of May here, it's been incredible.
Yeah, and it feels like the most complete team they've had maybe since 2017, just in retrospect, because I think the 19 team was really good, but nothing since then has felt this complete, because remember the Severino quote last year? I know you do. You guys only have 2 hitters, talking about not being afraid to face the Yankees.
Yeah.
You're spot on. We all knew that. We talked about it on this show. They only had 2 hitters for a while, and then Stanton had his playoff run that changed that narrative. But they really do not feel this balanced on an annual basis.
No, they are. And especially with the way I think we felt a couple of weeks ago or even a month ago, where, we had questions about where guys were going to play. And, the roster overall did feel a little unbalanced. And now I think guys are obviously playing well and playing into their roles. And you have your first baseman, and Rice has sort of, he's still playing well, and he still has to play every day, but you're able to mix in Goldschmidt when you can. And the question still remains when Stanton comes back, what they're going to do. But either way, guys have sort of found their positions and found, I think, the right playing time. And especially with Grisham now really cooling off too. You're getting Bellinger in there more. You're getting Dominguez more consistent at bats. So, I think right now it's going the way I think the Yankees sort of planned early on.
Yep. Absolutely. I agree with that. Now Grisham is clearly becoming 4th outfielder. Had a nice little hot start, won him a few games early, but that's coming to a close. OPS down to 875, dropping on a game-by-game basis. I'm good off that combo. I think the AL East is over, which is crazy to say on May 29th, but there's no way another team wins the AL East. It's so bad.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Tampa's about to play all those road games now. As we know, they loaded up the front half of the schedule with all those home games to avoid some weather in Tampa Bay. So they're going on the road now. I'm not confident in Toronto. I was not before the year. I'm shocked they're this good right now. And obviously, we're going to talk about the Red Sox in a little bit, but they're a freaking mess. So unless, and I'm not even going to bring up Baltimore. So unless Boston sort of has a 2024 Mets run in them, I don't see any of these teams stopping the Yankees from winning this division. I completely agree with you. It's over.
And with Bregman hurt, they're just, every time Bregman doesn't play, they just have no chance.
It's unfortunate for Bregman. He was having such a good year.
Yep.
So one of the better years in his career in a very long time, since he finished, second in MVP that year. It sucks. It sucks. Or did he win MVP that year?
Yeah. No.
Second. Yeah.
Or
Trout.
third, but probably second.
Trout.
Yep. Yeah. So this is I just looked through some of the stats on this division. Like the Yankees, for starters, are 15 games over 500. Tampa is in second. They're 1 game over 500. The run differentials, the Yankees are plus 113. Second best is the Rays, plus 20. And then the Sox are plus 12.
Let me ask you this question, okay? Because, we both did not pick the Yankees going into this season. So it might sound hypocritical, but going into the season, we did not pick the Yankees to win the American League. And I think it was a fatigue thing for us. And, I wasn't as confident. I thought they would make the playoffs. I thought they'd be in there, but I didn't think they'd win the American League. But I think we knew, and we looked at betting lines and this and that they were going to be considered the favorites to win the American League. And even with Detroit's great start, okay, they have the best record in baseball. Even with that start, I still don't consider them a serious threat to the Yankees right now. To me, they're not. On days that Schoolball pitches, you're probably going to lose. Okay. Anything else, to me, there's nobody in the American League that if I'm a New York Yankees fan, if I'm a Yankees employee, I sit there and say, yeah, they scare me. They don't. Nobody.
Yeah, I think you're right. I have a lot of respect for Detroit. That's where I want to be careful with what I say next, because I don't want to just say I wouldn't worry about playing them. I have a lot of respect for them. I think they're really good. I think Hinch is a great manager, and they're hitting this year. But they have the day of the year. But, the Yankees might be, in a crazy way, the only team that can offset the Scooble Day, because if they can match up Fried with them in a postseason game and put up 2 runs against Skubal and the bullpen, you might win that game. But it goes the other way too. The Tigers might be the only team that can offset the Fried day if they both keep up at this pace. So,
well, you also have the greatest right-handed hitter in maybe the sports history when it's all said and done.
yeah.
And you have Goldschmidt, who's hitting 400 with a 1600 OPS against left-handed pitching. So, yeah, you might be able to offset that day with just a couple of guys in your lineup.
Yep, they feel like the best team in the AL for sure right now. I think Detroit is right there. It feels like 1A, 1B for me, but the Yankees are definitely my 1A. And the Tigers probably won't get the 1 seed either because their division opponents are better.
Shockingly, yes, the division is better.
This division I could have seen having more teams with a winning record before the season than the AL East. I'm shocked that the second, third, and fourth place teams are all better than any team in the AL East. Yeah. That's a huge surprise, obviously. But they're going to have some trouble getting the 1 seed because of their schedule in the division in September. Yankees might be able to rip through that if they're healthy.
I mean, you're also just a game out. What are you, a game at two games out of that spot anyway right now?
Yeah.
It's a close race. It would be an interesting series. I think it would be a fun series to watch. The only series worth watching in the American League playoffs. And I think it would go like 5 or 6 games. I think the Yankees would win it in 5 or 6.
The thing about us in the preseason in spring training doing our prediction show and not picking the Yankees, if you remember my logic behind it, I had said the Yankees with all these new players on a 1-year window, you're looking for too many guys to be really good at the same time. But so far, the only guy that hasn't been is Devin Williams. And that hasn't been a huge problem because of how great Luke Weaver's been. And the rest of the bullpen's been good enough to carry the weight. And the starters have been good enough. But Max Fried is literally the Cy Young favorite, if not second right now.
Yeah.
Toss up with him and Skubal. Probably Skubal gets the edge at this point. But Fried is right there. Cody Bellinger's been hitting, and he's been hot in May. He's been their second best hitter. Paul Goldschmidt has been the second best player on the team, and that's not because the rest of the team sucks, because he's been really good. Like, these guys have actually shown up to play all at the same time, which is what I did not expect. I thought one of these guys, again, long season left ahead, it's still only the end of May. I thought one of these guys was going to stink because you're just bringing in too many pieces.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because I liked the moves on, like Bellinger. I liked, and I thought Bellinger would work. I was not confident in Goldschmidt at all, but it kind of feels like if it's just for the 1 year, and we said this going in, like you have a chance. And Fried was a frontline guy. We knew that, but Fried always dealt with injury. Mm-hmm. So barring, and God forbid, any injuries, like this team still is, we should have thought this going in, even with Cole out, that they were going to be the team in the American League.
And I made a video the other day it was on TikTok, and it did well, got a little over 20,000 views, and it was the Yankees could be the best team in the league. And then it was just following it up with a couple stats. Because while I don't think they are the best team in the league right now, I do think it's Philadelphia. There are cases to be made for the Yankees. So I made that. And a lot of the comments say, well, the guys that are playing great aren't going to keep it up. I don't know if Aaron Judge won't stay hot the way he is all year long. He has shown us no reason to believe that he is going to have a significant regression at any point in the season. Paul Goldschmidt is a Hall of Fame first baseman who completely changed his approach to the plate this year and has a 900 OPS. If he finished somewhere within 20 points of that on either side, I'm not surprised.
Right.
And it goes through the rest of the group too. Anthony Volpe, I don't think it's crazy for him to finally have figured it out a little bit to the point where he's got a 760 OPS all year long, and his WAR tracks the same throughout the entire year. Same thing with Dominguez. Like, they're not all best in the league guys. They're not all absolutely raking, but they're all playing to where you kind of hope they did.
Yeah, like Volpe isn't what you thought, but he's a productive player. He's still a productive player at the moment. As much as we've gotten on him, he's offensively, he's not great with guys in scoring position in big spots. We've seen that now a couple of times this year, but he's a productive player. You could live with it right now with the way the team is currently constructed. You could live with it.
Yeah. You know what I wanted to say about Volpe today? I just want to pull up his stats here. Because I'm trying to think of reasons why I don't love Volpe.
Right.
Because it's become a conversation with Yankee fans. Why is Volpe either it's always one end of the extreme, I think. You either think he sucks or you absolutely love him and nobody can tell you.
We had a nice video out there last week about that.
And if you want to go see that, you can go check it out, TikTok, Instagram. But I'm trying to figure out, why do I not love Anthony Volpe? What is my problem with Anthony Volpe? I have identified my problem with him as a hitter. The production's there. You compare him to other shortstops in OPS, RBI. He leads American League shortstops in RBI. And if you compare stats of production, then he's a pretty good player.
Right.
And he's valuable. And he's a good defender. I'll die on the hill of good, not great defender, but a plus defender for sure. And I'm thinking, like, what is missing that I really wanted from him? He gets on base at a 320 clip, and he doesn't steal enough bases. Yeah. That was his thing, he's a great base runner. And we don't steal that many bases. And watching Volpe struggle to get on base consistently, I always would have preferred Volpe was towards the bottom or middle of the league in shortstop production from the plate, but towards the top of it in total bases and being able to steal and get us extra bags, because that was his greatest trait.
And that's fine. And that's not a bad knock on a guy. I mean, listen, he doesn't get on base enough. Still at 320, I'm not happy with that. I mean, the OPS could be a lot higher. I completely agree with that. And then the stolen bases. Yeah, the stolen bases would piss me off. I remember when Lindor first got here, and, even those first couple of seasons there, the reason why his OPS wasn't as high was because the batting average and on base were not where it should have been. And now the last two seasons, it's like, okay, there we go. This is what we had expected. This is what we saw in Cleveland. The same thing for Volpe. That's got to be higher. He's a productive baseball player. The plate discipline just needs to, I think, improve.
And if I had seen, 767 OPS, I'm hoping it's because the on base is closer to 400 and he's just not hitting extra base hits. His slug is low because he's hitting a lot of singles. Think about it like Luis Arias, but he's a great base stealer. I'd rather that be the reason the OPS is in the mid 700s than what it is right now, which is Volpe slugging high for a shortstop, but he's not getting on base.
I don't know how valuable of a player that is, though.
But but just in the context of this Yankees team, that's the guy I wanted. I completely agree with what you're going to say, but that's the guy I was hoping was the floor, and he doesn't get on base enough.
But he could still turn into he's still young, and he still has shown some signs of being a productive offensive player, where I'm not saying he's going to be Gunnar Henderson or Bobby Witt, but something close or even halfway to that, because I don't even know if he's there right now. I mean, there are still signs of that player still being in there. So I think if this is all the necessary steps to getting there, then I think it's worth it.
Yeah, and you're totally right.
Don't change the approach. Don't change how you play.
It's probably easier to see him or more likely to see him increase the on-base percentage than it would be for a guy with the Arias archetype to increase the slug.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're going to change his whole approach.
Also, Gunnar Henderson stinks this year.
Does he? He's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, then you should know that. He's got 15 RBI. I mean, the team sucks, but he's got 7 homers, 15 RBI.
He does kind of stink.
He's got a 750 OPS. His on-base percentage is 318. 250 batting average.
Should try and fleece somebody for him. Let's see.
Sell him when the value's low. That's great, Mike.
I'll fleece somebody.
That's really smart. But yeah, they stink. I'm good on the Yankees now. Yankees, great couple of weeks. Really excited about them, but I'm good to talk some Mets here. Much more intrigued by the Mets, to be honest with you.
Yeah, let's talk Mets, dude. I'm ready to go.
The Yankees are exciting. The weekend series this weekend will be big against the Dodgers, but the Mets.
Hey, how about this? I heard this on Mad Dog yesterday, actually. So the Mets yesterday, the Mets last week against the Dodgers, not one game on SNY. And now this weekend again against the Dodgers. I don't think Yes has a game. Is that correct?
No,
Yes
I don't
does
think
not
so
have
either.
one game of this series.
Apple TV, Fox, and ESPN, I believe.
Yep. It's the same crap for the Mets.
Yep.
And it gets worse too. It's like Apple TV's production is pretty good, and I love Wayne Randazzo. And then you go to Fox and you get Davis, and their production's pretty good. Okay. And then it just plummets with ESPN, which is just the worst broadcast of all time.
Does it not feel like ESPN is totally packing in their baseball coverage because they don't have the rights after this year?
I mean, but it was their choice. I mean, it's their choice to not have the rights next year.
And I just think when you look at I'm saying this because I saw a great video of it was, what Sunday Night Baseball used to be, and it was an old Vasgersian game, and it was probably 6-7 years ago, and it was a really good production, at least for the 2-minute clip that I saw.
I could not stand Vasgersian. I'm not a Vasgersian guy.
I don't love Vasgersian. I definitely am not at the can't stand him point, but I thought at that time with him, they were all in on the production being better.
That's fine. They dropped the ball when they let Shulman go. He is one of the best play-by-play guys in the country. He does. He's the top guy for basketball on ESPN. He does the Blue Jay games for Sportsnet. He's great.
Yeah, that's a good
He's
call.
a big game voice.
And then they wanted it to be Kay, but I just don't think Kay is going to leave the Yankees. And I don't think Kay would be a good choice for the national announcer either.
No, neither do I. Apparently, Cohen might get, if NBC buys it, Gary Cohen might be a lead guy to do that.
I saw that. I would love that. Because
That'd be cool.
I think Cohen could be a very good national announcer.
It'd be interesting. He's not leaving SMI, obviously. But
no, of course not. But it would be like Ian Eagle does the Nets. So many guys do this. Ian Eagle does the Nets games, but he also does TNT or CBS, and he does the big college
it's one game a week.
He misses the time, and so I would like to see Cohen get a national shot, though. You know where else ESPN blew it? Not that I ever turned it on. The K-Rod thing. With
how? Like getting rid of it or just starting it?
No, the fact that it ever existed.
Oh,
good for them getting rid of it because they wanted it to be the Manning cast for baseball. But all these companies try to replicate what football does. Like the NHL's tried to put in this red zone thing now. This
MLB's tried it too.
Major League Baseball's tried it. NBA's tried it. Everybody's tried red zone. But you don't understand. Football happens, ideally once a week, 17 times a year. And that's how people view, or 18 times a year now. That's how people view the NFL. With 162 games, I don't really care if I miss the Cubs and Padres on Sunday Night Baseball. And if I'm not a Yankee fan, I don't care if I miss Yankee Dodgers.
And the problem also is that people love the Mannings. Just certain people
and their brothers
are obsessed with the Manning brothers.
They're very entertaining. I don't think A-Rod or Michael Kay are as entertaining as either of the Manning brothers.
No. But as a diehard football fan and as somebody who loves the Mannings, I don't sprint and watch that because it's just not an interesting way. I mean, it's an interesting way. It's not a way to watch the game. It's just not.
I'll watch the Manning cast a lot of times in the second half of the year when the Monday Night Football game is bad.
Okay.
When it's...
Or if they have a good guest, I'll probably throw it on.
Yeah, exactly. But, the other sports trying to replicate it, the K-Rod idea was awful. The other sports trying to replicate it, the football stuff, though, is just, it never, ever works out.
Never.
All right, let's talk a little Mets here.
Yeah.
What do you think about this last month for the Mets? Because now we're sitting here. This is going to be our last episode of May because we're not going to do one until after the weekend. Yeah. So are you, we were so excited about the Mets to start the year. We were excited about the Mets through April. Have you had those expectations and excitement be lowered a little bit because I know a lot of Mets fans have. A lot of Mets fans are still standing in the, it's going to be fine. It's just May. I'm really excited about the season thing. A little bit of both. Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's still early. I think it's a good judgment of a team. If your baseball team is hot and you're winning games, and then the second you come off of that cold stretch and you are out of it, how do you respond? Do you go on losing streaks? Are you losing 3 out of 5? Are you losing 4 out of 6? Or are you just floating around 500? And what they've done is when they've gone cold, they've just floated around 500. So to me, that's a great indicator of a good team or not. I think it's a really good team still. They're not clicking on all cylinders. I mean, offensively, they're still not hitting with guys on base. I do think this is a trend now. I don't think it's something that's going to continue all season long. I think they are going to get better. It's frustrating, but they're going to get better. And when they start to hit with guys on base and you get Soto and possibly Vientos going, I mean, this offense is going to be even scarier than it is. They're 12 games over 500 now, and they're only going to get better.
Winning these last 2 series on the road or at home against these 2 teams after losing the 2 on the road against the Yankees, which, you lose in the Bronx to the Yankees, fine. You'll probably win the 2 out of 3 at Citi Field. That's usually how the Subway Series goes. It's usually a flip. And then you lose a series to Boston, and it feels really bad. The doubleheader to the Cardinals earlier in the month felt bad, but they won the 2 series after against the Cubs and D-backs. You felt good about those. But winning these 2 series at home, even with last night's loss to Chicago, which was a bad one, but even with that loss, you were going for the sweep. You beat the Dodgers over the weekend. Those were 2 very significant series wins for me because of exactly what you said, how you respond after losing to the Yankees and Red Sox. You lose 4 out of the 6 games there. How do you respond? You beat the defending champs and you beat the White Sox, a series that you had to win.
And they should have swept the Dodgers. They had that incredibly frustrating Friday night game with the rain delay and the 3-run comeback in the 9th, and then the bases loaded, guys on 2nd and 3rd, and the 10th, 11th, and 12th, and you can't get guys home. I mean, that was incredibly frustrating. But yeah, they've responded. That's what they've done all season. They very resilient last year as well when they started to win. So yeah, I feel really good. I mean, Soto is another story, but I feel really good about this team still.
And with Soto, I mean, we got to talk about it again. At one point, there probably will never be an episode of the Burrows again where we don't talk about Soto.
Yeah.
Realize that? Like, it's that important now. He's that.
Yeah.
So,
he's that player.
With Soto, are we getting to the point here where we just say this is going to be the season he has? Or there's still so much time for him to get hot, but, 224 batting average, 745 OPS, still getting on base, 352, but this is just, his slug is 390.
I mean, I don't, okay, how do we mean that? Like this is going to be the stat line? Or
are we, no. Like, are we just, it's going to be higher than those numbers. I mean, I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
Right.
But are we just comfortable now with or like coming to the realization, or are we in the reality that Soto's first year with the Mets is going to be disappointing? Or could he have a, it's still impossible to answer right now.
It's still early because if he picked it up and he's got an 850 OPS to end the season, and like you look at that and say, okay, well, that's slightly disappointing from, just based on what he's done the rest of his career, like that number is lower than you would have thought. Mm-hmm. But then he goes and has a huge postseason. We're going to look at it completely differently.
Because if he has a good post All-Star break and then is their best player in the play, if he has the Yankee playoff he had last year on the way to a Mets World Series, it's a totally different.
Exactly. You're not even thinking about you'll laugh about the start of the year. Like that's how it will be viewed. Like this part of the season will be laughed at. I mean, again, I'm not a huge expected stat guy, but like at this point, I got to latch onto it. His expected batting average is 294. His expected slug is 569. He hits the ball on the ground way too much. I mean, he is hitting the ball on the ground a lot. And a couple of those numbers are skewed, according to people that really read into that. I mean, the numbers, the expected stats are skewed because he's hitting the ball hard, but on the ground at times. It's frustrating, but he's going to be fine. He's gotten very unlucky. He's hit fly balls, line drives that you think are going to get down, you think are going to get out, and they don't. So he's going to be just fine. Like I'm not panicking yet, and these expected stats are what keeping me sane at this point, and I think probably him too. But they got to start falling for him, man, because he's here. He was booed badly yesterday at Citi Field. He was booed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
He did a shuffle too. He did 2 shuffles.
It's weird because he's not good. Like, it's not. I agree with the expected stuff. You have to latch onto it. You have to buy into it. But it is so odd watching this guy be not good. Because I genuinely watch him and think he's been bad. I'm not like he's a great hitter who's good and we're just disappointed.
No, that's how I feel. But I also remember him when he started off in San Diego.
Yeah, it's the same thing. This is the same player.
Start. It's the same start.
So I wouldn't be worried about it at all.
No.
I don't think anybody should be worried about it. It's just odd watching him and saying this is one of the worst. This is literally one of the worst 2-month stretches of his career.
Right. Well, you're used to,
which is an insane career.
You're used to watching him, just hit the crap out of the ball.
What's funny is that the perception of the Yankee fan, including myself, is so skewed because it was 1 year and it was the best year of his entire career.
Right.
And that's just the guy. Soto was arguably the second or third best hitter in the league last year, behind Judge and maybe Ohtani. That's who I would put in front of him only. But when was another year in his career that he was actually that great? It doesn't really exist, but he's always been in the top 10 easy.
Juan Soto over his last 25 games, he's hitting 194 with a 715 OPS, 5 homers, 13 RBIs, 13 runs.
It's bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's not what you want.
That's bad. This is not a great player who we're disappointed by because he's playing good. This is someone who is hitting bad. And again, I would not worry about it if I was a Mets fan. I think it's way too early and overreactionary to worry about it. But he has been bad.
Yeah. Again, it's frustrating as hell. It is so freaking frustrating watching this guy come up with runners in scoring position. Or just watch this guy come up in general.
And what bothers me most with him is the lack of making up for it in the optics of the fans. Why are you not jumping out of the dugout to celebrate a big home run? Why are you not celebrating with your teammates in front of us? Because you could earn so many points with the fan base.
He's doing that a little bit. He is doing that a little bit.
We just don't see it. Honestly, if you don't watch every game, you just don't see it.
I've never seen a guy's mannerisms judged more, maybe ever.
Yeah.
Like from an athlete. I've never seen it more in my life.
There's so many layers to the conversation about his behavior because once he left the Yankees, I feel like in a lot of conversations, his comparison became Aaron Judge, who is not a fair comparison for anyone in the league on the field or with the way he acts around his teammates. They were talking about it a week or two ago on the broadcast, or no, it might have been after the Bellinger Grand Slam. Judge strikes out. It was after the Bellinger Grand Slam. Judge strikes out. Bellinger, next at bat, goes yard. Who's the first guy out there with the biggest smile on his face to hug him at home plate? It's Judge. So
right.
You're just, and I do it sometimes too. We have unfairly began to compare and critique Soto based on a template that existed for 1 year with Judge and Soto playing together in the Bronx. And it's just not, like, we're looking too deep into it.
And the comparison is actually Lindor to Judge because those are the two leaders. Those are the two guys that one wears the C on his chest or has the C, and the other basically doesn't. I mean, I think they're going to do it at David Wright's retirement, but either way, like that, we know who the captain of the Mets is, and it's not Juan Soto. But that doesn't mean Soto has to be this quiet guy that just goes about his business and, is there to play baseball. I'm sure he's not, but you need to see that. I would like to see, and again, this is us judging his mannerisms, but I would like to see him sort of become that guy that other guys could go to, because listen, you're going to be here 15 years. And I think he realizes that.
Mm-hmm. And that could be a scary reality for him. Not that he's with the Mets for 15 years, but that he's with anyone for 15 years. This is
maybe he's afraid of commitment. He's afraid of commitment.
Still 26 years old. He's never been. How long was he with Washington? 4 years.
4 years. 19 to 22.
He's never been with a team for more than 4 seasons. He's been jumping around the last 3 years, 3 different teams in 3 years, and that could be a pretty frightening thing. I'm getting booed here. I have 15 years left here. And because think about putting yourself in his shoes. The Mets are a great organization. Mets are a first-class organization. But if you're in his shoes and you don't love it right now, it could just be overwhelming to be playing poorly. That's his biggest problem mentally, I'm guessing, is that he's playing poorly. And then on top of that, if you don't love it yet, which I think he's definitely going to grow to love it, if he doesn't love it yet, it could just be a little overwhelming, the entire situation of I signed pretty much my entire career away for a place I don't love yet, and I'm playing terrible, and the fans are booing me. I'm just a little bit, in his head right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's in his head a lot. I do,
yeah.
But it's not uncommon. We've seen guys get traded here and sign here for a very long time and struggle. Beltran did it. Lindor did it. Piazza did it. So I mean, he's gonna be fine. It's an interesting conversation. He's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
Let's talk Mets catcher here.
Yeah, Alvarez, not going to be fine. This guy's not going to be fine. I'm done.
Speaking of guys who are playing bad, it's Alvarez.
I'm out. I'm completely out on this kid. I don't want to see him play anymore. I think Torrens has to get the majority of the days catching at this point. Torrens is better defensively. Torrens is a better pitch framer. Torrens is the better bat, and it's by a long shot. It's by a lot. So Alvarez is done. He's done. He's cooked. I don't think he's anything in this league.
No, he's backup catcher. That's it.
Yeah.
He's backup catcher, and it's just been a complete mess.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, listen, this is a big prospect. This was a guy that a lot of people counted on. That they bought the jersey. They were ready to go with Francisco Alvarez to be one of the cornerstones of this franchise. He's not that guy. He's not.
Yep.
It's Luis Torrens.
Who are the Mets' recent number 1 overall prospects in the league? Like, when's the time before that? Because I don't think any of that Rosario,
Dom Smith,
Jimenez group ever got there.
Kelenic was a guy, but he never came up with them, and then he sucked. Who else was a top prospect? Matthew Allen, but he never got to the league.
Let me see. I'm looking year by year right now. But yeah, I don't think you're going to see any of those guys before Alvarez with the Mets. That's why it was so much hype, because they don't usually have that. Were any of those pitchers, DeGrom, Syndergaard?
Harvey was. Syndergaard was the top prospect. Who else? Matz was on the top 100.
But
Wheeler, I was too early. Wheeler, I was too young for it to even know.
Point stands, though. These guys are. Alvarez was huge hype because the Mets usually don't have a guy that's the top prospect in baseball. And usually most teams don't have a guy that's top prospect.
A lot of the times, like, that guy that is hyped up like that does not pan out.
No,
does it not feel that way? Especially at least with our guys.
No, it feels that way. It absolutely feels that way, because look at, Baltimore had prospect after prospect after prospect these last few years. We might be looking back 10 years from now saying that was a total bust, because Rutschman has not lived up to it. And at least Rutschman, had a small period of time where he looked like he was going to be the best catcher in the league. Has not lived up to it. Holiday, a lot of time yet to be seen if Holiday's going to live up to it. But I think it feels like pitchers who get to that level have a much higher success rate than hitters.
Yeah.
But I could be totally wrong. There's just gonna be more hitters also that ever get to that point because there's more hitters than pitchers.
It's almost like I don't want to have the top prospect in baseball. Don't give me that overhyped guy at this point. For us, at least, for the Mets and the Yankees.
Yeah, I don't want that.
You've had Dominguez, you've had Volpe, and obviously those
Studs.
two guys.
Studs.
The book is still out on those guys.
Oh, the book's in.
And they could turn into okay. But if Anthony Volpe was this player, or Dominguez was this player for the rest of their career, they weren't worth the hype of being the number one overall prospect in baseball. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, I agree with you. They're support guys. They turn into support players.
Like if they were not, the top overall prospects in the sport, we wouldn't be sitting here saying, "Oh, what a disappointment!" or this.
Look at the stars of the homegrown stars on each team. Aaron Judge and Pete Alonso were 26-year-old nobody sluggers who were just big hog type of guys that were going to hit 200, but maybe give you 35 home runs once or twice in their career.
Yep.
They're two of the best position, but they're both on track to potentially having the best position player peak in franchise history.
Yeah.
And they were just guys that were, they got to your top of your farm, but they didn't have high expectations. They didn't have high hype.
Nimmo, same thing. Nimmo, I mean, you drafted him from Wyoming in the first round because you were cheap and didn't want to pay anybody. And I mean, he's turned into a decent, I shouldn't say decent. He's a good player, solid player.
Where I'm looking
overall
through the MLB pipeline, 20 years of prospect rankings. And it says here are all of our preseason number one prospects over the last 20 years. So it's Mike Trout, Joe Mauer, Jason Hayward, David Price, Shohei Ohtani, Corey Seager, Byron Buxton, Jay Bruce, Benintendi, Vlad, Franco, Matt Moore, Gunnar Henderson, Bobby Witt, Jurickson Profar, Delman Young, and Jackson Holliday. So how many guys out of that group, a good amount of them in preseason number ones actually ended up being pretty good hits. But it's like who out of that? Trout, Mauer,
right?
Obviously, Hayward, David Price, Ohtani, but Ohtani was not a minor league prospect.
Real guy.
Seager, obviously a hit. Buxton, I'd call a hit. And then it turns into Jay
but
Bruce.
Buxton was a huge prospect. And, we never considered Buxton one of the 10 or 15 or 20 best players in the sport.
And well, then it's you look through who the rest of the guys are. And,
I mean, if you're a top prospect.
Jay Bruce does not live up to a number one prospect's billing. Very good hitter in his career. Probably doesn't live up to a number one prospect billing. Andrew Benintendi, no. Never turned into a top 3 player on a team.
Neither of those guys.
Vlad, yes, lived up to it. Franco, different story. Totally different story. Matt Moore didn't live up to a top prospect billing. Gunnar, yes, to this point.
Book's still out, though.
Bobby Witt, absolutely.
Yep.
Profar, no. Delman Young, absolutely not. Jackson Holliday, books out. Don't think it's going to happen.
Remains to be seen. Delman Young, absolutely not. Yep.
And then you look at some other guys that were top 5 guys. Verlander was the 5th ranked guy. Kershaw was the 4th ranked guy. Betts was number 62 when he got called up in the league.
Crazy.
So it's just,
it's all a crapshoot.
So this backs up what I was saying, though. Not to keep talking prospects. We'll get to Baty, Vientos in a second. This backs up what I was saying about pitchers. This says top 100 guys and the positions that represent players who have accrued the most WAR out of top 100 guys over the last 20 years. Right-handed pitchers, by far, the most successful group.
It's a good hit by you.
And then outfielders are 2nd, shortstops are 3rd, left-handed pitchers are 4th, third baseman 5th, catchers 6th, first base 7, and second base is the worst at 8.
It's a good hit by you.
It's a good hit by me.
Ball.
No ball. Find a good article to back up some knowledge there. All right. That was good prospect chatter for a few minutes there. Was not on the agenda really, but
no.
Here we go, going off the rails for a moment. Now we go to this Baty Vientos conversation, which is getting a lot of people talking. For some reason, I hear people talking about who should be traded at the deadline instead of both players are pretty good. But Vientos is my guy. Really bad first month of the season. Starting to pick things up now. Baty, not my guy. Your guy has been very solid.
Love Baty. Baty's the guy. I mean, he's just the guy. You see him at third yesterday. He's unbelievable at third base. I mean, he's the man. I love him.
He has to play third every day.
Brett Baty Day is coming up July 22nd, as my friend Luke pointed out. That's against the Angels. We're very excited for that. 7/22. Maybe Juan Soto will give Brett Baty back his number, 22. You know, I mean, it's disrespectful that even Soto could take 7.
Okay.
He doesn't deserve 22 anymore. It's Brett Baty's number. Anyway,
Baty, everyday starter, third base, and he has his own day in the summer. When's Vientos Day? Doesn't happen.
Vientos Day is not happening. We don't have those. We don't celebrate those. You have to do something really special in 2025 to deserve that. I was gonna say in the league, but he's got some pretty big postseason home runs, so I can't even say that.
I'd argue Vientos has done more special things in his short career than Baty has.
Vientos has done more special things in the major leagues in 3 weeks in October than Baty has in his entire life,
and probably will.
Nope, that's not true.
Yes,
this postseason is going to be big for Brett. No, but all seriousness, I mean, yeah, you want to be the best defensive team you possibly can while also getting the best offensive guys in there. And you don't really have a DH right now. Marte had a nice week, but I still don't trust him. You DH Vientos and you play Baty at third because he's hitting and he could play third base very well. So it's easy. You get both guys in there. Vientos is okay DHing. He's not like Mr. Rafael Devers over there, and that's it. And you do that. You go with that.
Vientos team guy.
Devers is the opposite of a team guy.
They really miss Winker right now too.
Yeah, they can use an extra lefty. They got Jared Young up, and they're upstairs. They have a big infatuation with Jared Young right now. I don't know if you know who Jared Young is.
Yeah.
So he had a nice day the other day, and he's a cool story. Apparently, he's a great guy. So I hope they keep him up here for a little bit, but. As soon as Winker comes back, I'm sure he'll be gone. And you have what's his face coming? Jose Siri back at some point too.
Doesn't move the needle.
And Paul Blackburn back this week as well. He'll be 6th starter in the 10-game stretch here. He's gonna get a start.
That's big time for them. That's really gonna
Paul Blackburn. That's big.
Yeah, that's really gonna get them going. What else do we have? What else do we have on the Mets here besides Blackie?
All right, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
You're going to love this question. I'm rolling out Sanga, Manaea, Peterson, Holmes. With the way those guys have gone this season and whatever your expectations are for Manaea, where does that top 4 rank in a postseason? Top 4 in a postseason series. Where does that rank? In the National League. I'll give you National League.
Sanga, Manaea, Peterson, Holmes. In the National League.
That's up there.
That's up there.
It's
probably 3.
With the way those guys are pitching right now, that's up there.
Probably my 3. Behind LA, expecting they have a little bit of health. They've had some tough situations with health.
Obviously,
Philly. And then I'd go the Mets probably.
I'm trying to think Arizona. I mean, the top
San Diego with Cease. I don't go with the way Cease has been. Cease is not good, and I don't trust Cease in the postseason.
King is great,
but I think the Mets are 3.
I think they're probably 3. They're better than whatever Chicago throws out there. They're better than I think whatever Arizona throws out there.
And Fran,
Webb. Who else?
Let me look right now.
Verlander's not making any postseason starts. Hicks has been bad.
San Fran. Where are your team stats? Let's see. Giants team stats pitching. I think the Mets are better before I look.
Yeah.
But Webb, Robbie Ray's got a 2.5 ERA, 7-0. Hicks is 6.3 ERA, and Landon Rupp has a 3.5. He's 3-4. Verlander 4.3. So the Mets are better. Giants have better top 2.
Now, Atlanta, if they're healthy, I mean, you got Sale, Strider, Ronaldo, Lopez, maybe them, but still, I'm not sold that Lopez was going to be as good as he was last season.
Yeah. Mets are 3, probably. They're probably 3. That's a good question.
3. I like that.
You got to feel good about that.
I feel great. I feel great about their starting staff. I feel great about it.
We had this conversation in the offseason where you can make the argument for if they can't shut down the Dodgers offense, which is very difficult to do, but if they can't beat them because the Dodgers just hit especially their second and third guy, or third and fourth guys, if they can't hit that second half of the top 4. So Senga and Manaea pitch pretty well, but the next 2 days you just get rocked. You go down 3-1 because you lost one of the first 2 games in pitchers' duels. If that was to happen, it's where my argument for I think I'd rather make sure I'm paying one ace pitcher comes in. But we have to see how this Mets thing goes because Manaea, I love him. If he came into the postseason and absolutely shoved, if he had a great second half of the year, I'm not surprised at all. And he could end up being that guy.
Well, he pitched well against them last year. Peterson pitched well. They went 7 2/3, his longest start of his career against them. Only 2 runs. I mean, they've had guys that have had success against this team. Manaea was good against them in the postseason. I just said that. And, and Senga was good. Senga was good last week.
You want to wrap this up with a World Series prediction?
Let's wrap it up with a World Series prediction.
Who do you got?
The World Series that would make me want to jump in front of a truck on the Southern State Parkway. Right now, gun to my head, it's Phillies-Yankees. Phillies over Yankees.
I'm going to just run back last year's and say Dodgers-Yanks.
Yeah, I think it's Phillies-Yanks right now. I can't. The Phillies, they're going to have to go out there and get bullpen help, but I don't think – I think they'll get fleeced in deals like they usually do here in this spot, but I think they'll get the help. And then the staff is great, and offensively, I don't even think they've hit their stride yet.
Yeah. Good call. Good call. Phillies best team in baseball. Anything else today for you, Michael Merlo, before we wrap up?
No, all good. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
All right, let's go Mets. Let's go Yankees. Appreciate you watching. We'll be back next week. Maybe one of these days we do 25 and under. That's kind of been on me the last few times we tried to do it, but that's our next draft episode is 25 and under. We're back full swing now. Baseball season, May 29th, last episode of May. So when we come back, it's June swoon time for the New York Mets, and we'll see how they fare through that.
No, month. we got the Pride Month Mets. There's nobody better than the Gay Pride Mets. There's nobody better.
Last year they changed the narrative.
Yep, and 22. So we're back.
You're definitely pumped. So here we go.
I can't wait.
Mets in June are here. We will be back probably on Tuesday, discuss the weekend series. Mets have the Rockies this weekend, right? Yankees have the Dodgers. So Yankees obviously always tougher schedule than the Mets. Mets are the easiest teams in baseball.
Yeah, right.
Rockies again here. Yankees, Dodgers. We'll talk through it all on Tuesday morning. We appreciate you joining us. Make sure to check out everything BTO Media, including the playbook with Gabe Zoda, New York sports short form content, the Hardline in 2025. Still going strong. The Hardline. The Merlo Minute a week or two ago came out. Check that out. And what else? We have Bunker, No Good Takes, all on the BTO Media Spotify, separate from the Burrows Spotify. So check that out. Check out the podcast on a daily basis. We have stuff coming out. So we appreciate you listening. We'll see you next Tuesday on the Burrows for episode 52.